Okay, so Dora's dollhouse problem. Dora's building a dollhouse for her cousin. She needs several boards that are 3/4 of a foot long. Okay, so that's kind of the key here, and that's what's going to confuse a lot of us. She needs boards or pieces of wood that are 3/4 of a foot long, not a whole foot, but 3/4 of a foot long. She went to the store and found that the lumber she needs is sold only in lengths of 8 feet. She laid a tape measure next to each board and drew the diagram below. Okay, so that means she has an 8-foot piece of wood, like this. What we're going to do is we're going to work with our team where I'm going to work it out and figure out how many of the 3/4 foot boards can she cut from one 8-foot piece of wood. Again, this is her wood. She has 8 feet of wood, okay? 8 feet of wood. From that 8 feet, we're cutting 3/4 feet boards. So every 3/4 of a foot, we could cut a board out of that. So this is half a foot right here. This is 1 feet. So if this is half a foot, this would be 3/4 of a foot. So this is one board, okay? And that's 3/4 of a foot. Okay, well, here's another 1/4, 2/4, 3/4. This is 2 boards. Okay, and again, this is going to be 3/4 total from the total piece of wood. This is actually going to be 1.5 feet, or I'll go ahead and say, yeah, let's go ahead and say 1.5 feet or 1.5 feet. Okay, here's another 1/4, 2/4, 3/4. So right here is going to be a third piece of wood. 1/4, 2/4, 3/4. A fourth piece of wood here at the 3 feet mark, right here. 1/4, 2/4, 3/4. That's 5 boards or 5 pieces of wood that she could cut. 1/4, 2/4, 3/4. That's 6 pieces. 1/4, 2/4, 3/4. That's 7. 1/4, 2/4, 3/4. There's 8 right here. 1/4, 3/4. Sorry, 1/4, 2/4, 3/4. That's 9. 1/4, 2/4. 1/4, 2/4, 3/4. That's 10 pieces here. So we know we could cut at least 10 pieces of wood. Okay, this is one piece right here, a second piece right here, second piece right here. That's 1, 2, 3 pieces, 4 pieces here, 5 pieces here, 6 pieces here, 7, 8, 9, and 10. Okay, so we have half of a feet left. So I'm gonna redraw the half a foot, that final half foot right here from 7.5 to 8 feet. Let's just go ahead and assume that it's going to be right here. Okay, let's pretend that this is a total of 1/2 a foot, half a foot. Okay, from 7.5 to 8, 7.5 feet to 8, right over here. I'm making it bigger so we could see it more easily. Okay, we know that we need 3/4 of a piece. Let me do this in red. So for the board, it needs to be 3/4 feet. So if this is half of a foot, 50%, that's 1/4 more. So right here, this would be, I'm just gonna label it here, 3/4 feet. Okay, this board's 3/4. This is half a foot. If this is how much we have left, this 1/2 foot, this is how much left of the wood that we have, of the big lumber we had. We have half a foot. So I need to figure out what it's asking us. Okay, how much more can I cut from this? Well, what I could do is I could say, okay, that piece of wood, the half foot, goes from here to here. Let me go ahead and highlight that all the way here. Okay, so obviously we cannot cut a whole piece of wood because a whole board needs 3/4 foot, and that we needed this much. So we can only cut a half foot. So how much of this board does it fit? How much of this board? Well, let's look at the fraction. Okay, so we have this much. Okay, we could actually pretty much ignore this now. This piece right here, let's actually go ahead and ignore this piece. I'm gonna just, how do I make it dark? Let's go ahead and just ignore that piece right there so we don't even see that. Okay, that's not working out. So well, just go ahead and ignore this. I'm just gonna go ahead and cross this out. Okay, we know we have this much wood. Okay, what fraction of this wood is it? Okay, well, if we look at the grid lines, it takes 4 boxes, 1, 2, 3, 4 boxes out of 6. That means there's 2 that's not taken. So if we kind of split there, this is 1/3, 2/3. Okay, so 2/3 of this 3/4 foot piece of wood fits. So this last piece right here, I'll actually do it in green. This last piece is another 2/3 more. So that would be 10 and 2/3 total. So to answer the question, work with your team and figure out how many of the 3/4 foot boards she could cut. Well, Dora can cut 10 whole 3/4 foot boards and 2/3 more, meaning 10 and 2/3 total. Okay, 10 and 2/3 total. Okay, so after she cuts her boards, how much lumber would be left over from the 8-foot piece? What part of the 3/4 board is this? Show how you know your answer. Okay, so I guess we sort of already answered that. The 10 hole boards right here, the 10 hole boards was actually the answer to A. So we could cut 10 whole boards. Okay, we 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 whole boards, and we have this leftover piece here. How much was left over? So how much lumber is left over? Well, we talked about that. We have from 7.5 feet to 8 feet. So she will have half a foot left over. What part of a 3-foot board is this? So that's the second part of the question. I'm going to answer that in a different color just so it's a little obvious. What part of a 3/4 board is this? It is 2/3 of a 3/4 foot board. And then finally, show how you know the answer. Well, we sort of showed it up here. We actually already did show it here when we drew this diagram right here. So that sort of answers the diagram portion. And finally, represent this situation with the division sentence. Okay. Well, we start out with 8 feet, so that's what we're starting with, and we're dividing it, or we're splitting it into what size? Well, we're splitting into 3/4 size pieces. Okay. And that's going to equal, well, we already know it equals 10 whole and 2/3, so 10 and 2/3. Okay. If we needed to work that out, well, we drew the diagram up here already, or we could do it with the efficient method where we're just going to work it out on paper. We know that 8, and we know that division is multiplication backwards, so we're going to do times. Since it's backwards, we have to multiply by the reciprocal. 4/3 equals, well, 8 times 4 is 32. 1 times 3 is 3. That's going to simplify into 10 and 2/3. So we still get the same solution.